All right, man. Welcome to the Art of Anticipation. Tonight's masterclass is going to be all the ways that I made mistakes in my journey with love and anticipation and being an intimate partner and all those things. And my goal for tonight is literally to give you guys a really hefty resource tool for yourselves to create a different experience for yourself and your beloved. And this kind of work can be pretty close to the heart, I would say, for most of us men. Is like, I think deep down there's a level of all of us wanting to be great lovers and be a great experience with our partner. And I think largely our education on this is quite like hidden away. So I'm really like opening tonight up to be something that we really get to ask questions and share. And even inside of men's groups, sometimes there's opportunities to share this kind of thing. But I feel like tonight's really like full permission to ask and to create a discussion, and just comes with questions and ways to learn. So I guess the thing that I want to drop into here is, like I said before, if you have questions, please write them down as we go. And then that way, at the end of the night, there'll be ample opportunity. Like, I will not get off this call until every question is answered. So just know that as well. So if men need to drop off or finish at 9, they're welcome to. That sort of speaks to mainly to that. And I think the thing that I wanted to do first was do like a drop in, but I think I'll just speak to this one part first. Is just that we're here as men who want to shift the perception of intimacy, sex, love, and romance, and be the men that are ready to fully show up in our hearts, minds, guts, and our balls. The seekers of creating containers with our beloveds that go beyond what we watch in movies and on a computer screen. We are talking about the space between the wanting and the having when it comes to sex and intimacy. And I think where do we start is we're here because we want to create ecstasy in ourselves and in our partners. And we want to learn a version of, like, this essentially is a version of personal development. So it's an artistic, authentic expression that I'm wanting you men to take away from tonight. Is like, this gets to be, we move beyond performance in the bedroom and trying to get it right. So to me, this is like a skill development. And as with any skill, there are parts to, like tonight, that we'll be covering some topics around anticipation, but it also just gets to be your own. I really want you guys to run with this. And it's important to acknowledge that where we are at in our sexual intimacy, where we've maybe been to some workshops, we've read some books, we've learned from our previous partners, we've watched movies or tried to get some insights from porn, and maybe we've had lots of sex in our life, or maybe we've had very little. Some of us have had long-term partnerships, and some of us only short ones. But we're here because we're acknowledging that we want to have great sex. And it's important to us that we're willing to learn. So me, myself, I'm a man that wants to be a great lover. And I guess this creates this night as I'm learning as well. So this is not me like I'm some fucking god, because I'm not, but it's that I just want to share in the knowledge that I've got over the 20 years of relationship that I had and the relationships that I'm now having, and before that has sort of accumulated some of the skills that I've learned through psychotherapy, through men's work, through rites of passage training, through coaching, and then through all the accumulation of all the hours spent with men talking about relationship, sex, and desire. And I think too, just talking to women largely, because I think where we're at with this is that on average, I think that women are largely underfucked and are wanting something more. And I think for most of us, it's like we want to be good, we just don't quite know how. Or they might even ask something that's very specific of us and we still can't meet it. So I would love to have those sorts of discussions at the end of the night. If there's men that have particular things that are happening that they're struggling with or they're not quite nailing and want some insight or some support with, and we're going from that place. So I feel nervous, so I would like to do a drop in. I'm going to do just a little practice with you men just to get the night started and let ourselves just fully land. So get yourself in a comfortable position, feet crossed or your legs out in front, whatever you find comfortable for you. If you're sitting in a chair, just both feet flat on the floor, shoulders back against the rest. And we're going to start with just a really simple microcosmic orbit, it's called. So it's just a meditation to bring yourself into awareness, into the body and into this present moment. And what it looks like, or what it's going to be feeling like, is the microcosmic orbit is you bringing awareness to the lower part of your stomach, second chakra, and it's a focus on breathing in and then drawing down to the perineum, up the spine in an inhale, letting the inhale come over the crown of the head and in between the eyes to the third eye, pausing here with the breath, and then the exhale going down the front of the body, back to the lower belly again. So I'll just let you take this breath in again, down past the perineum, up the spine. As you breathe in, maybe there's a sensation of bubbles coming up the spine, right up to the top of the crown, breathing in, holding the breath just for a moment, and then exhaling and letting the front part of your body just soften. You're just going to be doing that for like 2 minutes. Letting yourself just focus on the sensation in the lower belly at the start of the breath. Up the spine, pausing at the eye, exhaling, relax down the front of the body. And the breath in and the breath out is even in length. Really tuning into the sensations that are in the body as the breath goes up the spine, letting that relaxation come over the top and down the front of the body. And we'll just do 3 more rotations. Just letting yourself gently come back to the room, wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes. Maybe you do meditation practice regularly. Maybe that's the first time you've done something in a long while. Really encouraging every man to have a little bit of mindfulness practice on the regular. Very, very, a very good practice indeed. So we're going to jump in here and start the night off. We're not jumping straight into any of the key points yet, but we're still going to just start to look at sex in a more general way. And I think coming from this space of wanting to be great lovers and, you know, this talk around intimacy and sex and connection and anticipation and being a good partner and lover, is what does sex mean to you? And just, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to sit and just write just for a moment. We're going to be doing this a little bit throughout the night, not for very long, but just a short intermission each time. Is what does sex mean to us? I got some points here where it could be pleasure, fun, creativity, play, stress relief, polarity, procreation. Could mean something around your masculinity and you've tied something in there. For a lot of us men, it's important. But what does it mean to you? Does it mean love? My partner has sex with me, then she loves me. I'll give you guys another 30 seconds. Adam, lots of writing there. Well done. Mm-hmm. I think this is a really important contemplation. It's like, if what's all this for? Otherwise, we would just be celibate. And some of us are terrified of never having sex again. So what does it mean to us? And then what I'd like you to do is also write down now, in the shadow, what's the shadow meaning to you? What's the thing that's behind all of that? Or how does it show up for you when it's more needy? Or another way to think about it is, what's the secondary gain that we get? Is it power or is it control? Is it love? Is it connection? Is it dominance? Do we tie it in with our self-worth? It's like, oh, I'm having regular sex and I'm a man. I'm more manly. Give you guys another 20, 30 seconds. All right. And there's one more question that you're going to write, and this might be a longer one for you guys after tonight, but it's around, what is your relationship to sex? Which might seem a little bit similar to the first question, like, what does sex mean to you? But what's your relationship like to it? Do you love it? Do you loathe it? Does it bring you anxiety? Is it something that you really want but feel really frustrated about? Do you have anxiety when you think about it? Does it bring up anger, guilt? Do you have some wild fetish that you don't want to let your missus know about? You really want to play it out and you don't know how to broach the topic. Have you experienced sexual abuse by a woman, by a man, and does that make you feel some part of your relationship to sex as well? Like somehow it feels a bit hard to acknowledge. Or does it feel really healthy these days and you're really in a good place with it and you're just wanting to enjoy it more with your partner or learn something new? Maybe you're in that place. Or it could feel really repetitive and you feel like you're stuck in a rut. All right. So how did I get here? I'm going to do a little personal share of myself, of my sort of experience of getting to this point of like running a masterclass on anticipation. It's not something that I thought of until I wrote the post about 2 weeks ago. And it was something for me that I've had a lot of partners recommend I should run something for men to show them or explain or teach them. And I think the reason, personally, the reason why is I've had a really, I would say, not the normal sex sort of education, so to speak. So I was somebody that grew up heterosexual, um, sex positive household, that sort of thing. My introduction to sex was from my cousin growing up that was a bit older than me that showed me magazines and I've watched little bits of porn and I'm the age demographic that's a bit younger, a bit older that I didn't have access to the internet when I was young. So I was just missed out. I was a little bit older than that. So for me, it was like, and I'm kind of glad because it seems like it's been really like a big deal for men that are just a little bit younger than me that have always had access to the internet growing up. So for me, it was more about my imagination. And my experience very young was like, I I was witness to a sexual assault happening when I was very young, and it had me really fear sex and being a man and being a perpetrator. So I witnessed somebody be raped at a very young age. And so for me, I created a sense of I don't want to be someone that's too forward around sex. So it made me very passive. It made me also unable to take charge or be certain. I was always looking for feedback and looking for approval from women in the bedroom. And I wanted to be like a sensual lover and not be a dark lover in any way. I never wanted to be misunderstood as a perpetrator or as dark or as bad, so to speak. So for me, it was always around being sweet, being slow, being nice. And I really get in the past that this has created me to be a nice lover, but not someone that could lead or create a scene or create a lot of anticipation for somebody ongoing. So what I learned over the years was I ended up being in a relationship from the ages of 17 to 32 that was monogamous. So I had a 20-year relationship, and 15 years into that relationship, I was in a state of, I was doing what was working. I was definitely emotionally shut down, and our intimacy had got to a point where it was regular. It felt good, but it wasn't exciting. So it was quite like, it was okay, I would say, is probably the most nicest way I could say it. Um, and what unfolded for me was my partner at the time, as some of you men may know, opened up our relationship. So she met a woman and started dating a woman. And I feel like, in a way, that it sucked at the time, but I was also the luckiest man alive because I was able to be in the container with those two women and watch how women interact with each other for real, not on TV, not on porn, not on movies, but actually, like, how does my partner want to be turned on, or how does my partner interact with somebody else that's not me? So I got to be the literal fly on the wall, and sometimes I was the fly in the action as well. But it was like I got to have this experience of like watching somebody else play in their erotic blueprint. We're going to be covering erotic blueprints as we go tonight, but it was the realization for me that I had these moments of like, oh, I'm not doing this. This, what I'm watching in front of me, is not what I'm doing at all. And once I saw it, I was like, I can do that. Now I understand what my partner means when they say they want me to touch them but not touch them, or be more indirect, but I want you to take charge. It was always very confusing what was being explained to me, the desire that my partner had, but the inability to meet them in it. So I'll I'll leave it for there for now because we're going to be going into a lot more topics. But it was that I got to have this experience of learning real time about my partner at the time, and then learning how to play with this anticipation, play with this dance of how to how to create this, and how to create more of a sex is happening 24/7 kind of mindset. Whereas I used to think that sex was just like the foreplay when it happened and then it was done. I'm really aware now that I'm creating it all the time. It's always happening. So we'll go into that as we go through. So if you have questions, just jot them down now before you forget. I'm happy to answer anything. I'm an open book. So women on average think about sex 2 times a month on average. And men can think about sex a couple of hundred times a day, depending. So us men wanting women to engage with sex with us or to initiate, it's like it really isn't in their DNA to do it. You know, if we think about our cycle, so men's cycle is with the sun. So we have a daily cycle. Our peak testosterone is the first thing in the morning. That's why typically we wake up with a hard on in the morning, and we're the most friskiest typically in the morning. And then as the day goes on, it wanes, it lessens. And women's is kind of the opposite during the day. They're slow to wake up, and theirs sort of picks up more in the evening, but they're on a 28-day cycle with the moon. So we need to be aware when we're engaged with our partner of just knowing when the phases are that they're in, and knowing when is the better time to initiate or create scenes and play in the relationship. So typically it's 5 to 15 days after their bleed starts. So I want to preface that as well, because sometimes we'll go to engage with our partner and it's the week before their bleed and it's just a no-go, you know? And yet if we would have done the exact same thing a week before, it probably would have happened. So it's knowing this. We're going to take our skill level up as far as our awareness with our partner. And women hold everything all at once. We're going to be doing a meditation practice tonight around masculine and feminine energy. And so a woman, typically who's in her feminine, is going to be thinking about the kids, the finances, the front door being locked, the food in the fridge, what's happening next week, last year, where she is in her cycle, and the piece of lint in your belly button all at once, you know? So trying to engage with your partner in this way where she's got everything going on in her mind. If we go to want her to initiate, she's actually got to clear a lot of that out of the way to do so. And the way that she does that is by us being in our masculine, us being really present with her. When we show her our presence and give her attention, she can forget. She can forget about those things. So the note here is stop wanting her to initiate. She will initiate if you create the wanting in her. And we're going to get right into that as we go into this masterclass. So if you're wanting to create an epic experience for both of you, then we've got to learn how to become an attractive shore, meaning make sure that you're not doing or saying things that turn her off. When you do this, you create a barrier to your intimacy. So you've got to be able to keep the space clean between you. It's basically relationship housekeeping. And I'll also add, if we are needy, this will also turn her off as well. So I will be going into the neediness as well. So you must be in control of your desire so you can skillfully evoke hers. And this doesn't always work, but it's like if we're going to take radical responsibility about our love lives and lead this sort of work, then we're going to need to take on some of this responsibility around being able to evoke her desire. I'll also add here, being direct with her about sex, like, can we have sex? Doesn't work. It doesn't work because that's logical like a guy. And I know we've all done it. I know I've definitely done that. It's kind of like a bit of a haymaker to see if it'll work. And it's this way that we use our logical brain as men, and women just aren't built like that. They don't think like that. So this is where we need to learn to stop having outcome-based sex. If we have outcome-based sex, then we're not being present in the moment. And we also need to stop trying to make her come and give her an experience instead. It's one of the things that I really fucking wish I would have known way earlier. It's like, that does not necessarily equal good sex. Coming can be really painful. Coming can be forced. The amount of women that fake orgasms, you'd be shocked. Just so it can be over. I know one woman that did that to me, and I know it for sure. I know it for sure. She faked it. If life is about the journey and not the destination, then why are we on a sprint to make her come? That's what sort of stuck in my mind. So sex is about the enjoyment and the experience and the walk and the smells and the sights and all the things. It's not just the peak. And the question then begs to be asked for you guys is, what's your relationship to anticipation? How do you men each experience anticipation in your life? Especially in regards to sex. Just write for less than a minute. I'll give you guys about a minute around this. What's your relationship to anticipation? Or another way to ask that is, how do you experience it? especially know for me as I got deeper into this work around men's work and around psychotherapy and embodiment, is like my ability to hold big feelings got bigger. So I can hold more anticipation. I can hold more of my anger, more of my grief, more of those things, and I'm able to express it better and better. So I'll give you an answer around anticipation of what it is. It's the feeling of excitement, eagerness, or expectation about something that is going to happen in the future. Excitement, eagerness, or expectation. So as you can see, if you're creating that in your relationship and creating that with her of excitement, eagerness, and expectation, those three together, amazing. It involves looking forward to an event, an experience, or an outcome with a sense of hope, curiosity, and suspense. So how can we start to think about this more in our relationship, get more skillful around this? Because there's 3 levels of a relationship, or 3 stages to a relationship. Honeymoon phase, which I call the enchantment phase. It's where you're fascinated by her. She smells good. She looks good. You can't wait to see what she looks like under those beautiful workout clothes or whatever she's got on, or dress that she's wearing, and her hair smells good and all the things. And you can't wait to see her. You're messaging all the time. Sex just happens. Like when you guys are just around each other, it's just really effortless. And that can be 6 to 9 months. It can be up to 2 years. You can have this honeymoon phase. Fighting doesn't really happen. And then we move into the conflict phase, level 2. Conflict phase is when things start to show up, which they do. All relationships are designed to do this. When you have 2 nervous systems coming together, 2 people coming together with all their history, there's going to be this discombobulation of like, how do we fit? We're starting to get closer together. We're starting to meet each other. And conflict can occur. And this is where we can start to blame. Sex starts to die off. Doesn't just happen like it did. She's not into it as much. Maybe you're not into her as much. It feels like she's smothering you, or she's always leaning out or doing something else, or work is more important. And it starts to notice like we're in this stuckness. And there's usually blame. Both parties don't feel appreciated, and both parties aren't able to appreciate the other person. There's a bit of stuckness here. And this is usually the phase where people and couples stay. They either stay in this or they end the relationship. Or they take radical responsibility, learn masterclasses, do the inner work, and do it together and create what I call the re-enchantment phase, which is what I sort of named the embodied union. To me, it's like you're actively working on your own stuff and your relationship stuff together. You're in it together. You want the growth. You're in for the journey. You're learning about each other. You're creating fascination with each other again. And I know that couples can move through the conflict phase quite easily if they have the tools, skills, and resources. So it doesn't have to last forever. You can move through it as long as you're both willing. So, how do we create this anticipation? You're going to need to know what your partner's needs, desires, and wants are. This is going to be a conversation that you're going to lead. You're going to set up a time with her and talk to her about this. And it's not just before you have sex. See, often we don't want to bring up uncomfortable conversations in our relationship because we don't want to cause a fight or a scene or get her upset with us. But if we don't have these uncomfortable conversations, nothing changes. So it's so important that we're leading this, because she's probably wanting to have it, but she knows if she brings it up, it'll be a problem. So maybe if it's you doing it, then it's you taking the lead, and she's open to receiving your leadership. So if you're wanting to lead and have a better version of your intimacy, you must be able to hold your invitation. You reacting, being needy, kills her openness and her feminine. Your ability to hold your masculine frame is what this is based on. So you falling for her reactivity or her complaints is buying into her leading the relationship. So if a woman says something that's I could take as an offense to, if I take offense to that, she is now leading the conversation or the discussion because I'm reacting with her. That's me stepping into her world. So I need to stay where I am in my frame, in my certainty. And when she says something like that, I don't buy into it. For example, I saw it as a post the other day. A guy's in a nightclub, he's got sunglasses up, and a girl comes up to him and goes, "Why are you wearing sunglasses in the nightclub?" And instead of him going into the reasons why and getting into her world, it was all he did was pop his sunglasses up and just asked if Shorty was a Sagittarius and just kept it in his conversation. So this isn't about pickup artistry, but this is about you not taking or being knocked off course with what you're setting up. So when you speak to your partner around something that you know is going to be potentially sensitive, you can almost guarantee she's going to react. So you don't respond to her reactions. You hold the center, you hold the frame, and you are committed to the conversation, moving forward, being better in your relationship. And then when she settles down, that's when you can continue to have the conversation. And if there's questions on this, I'm happy to answer them at the end as well. You listen. You can still listen to her. You can listen to what's being said underneath the reactivity or the upset or the whatever it might be. And you're still going to discuss what's going to happen. And so too many men let water under the bridge build up in their relationship. And if you want to create anticipation and have a thriving sex life in your relationship, it's so important that we keep the relationship tidy energetically. Unspoken words, mishandled tasks, broken promises all lead to blocks in intimacy. So this is the first part we're getting into now. We're going to go into part number 1. If you were going to look at this tonight, just so you can see, it's going to be relationship housekeeping, could be 1 page. The next page would be holding your masculine frame. The next page would be anticipation. The next page would be intimacy. And the last page would be aftercare in the flow of the night. So these are going to be the big key aspects of the work tonight that we're doing. So you'll have an opportunity to write and have time around what questions or what points you've got at each end of each section, but we're going to get started on this. So relationship housekeeping is probably the most unsexy but most important part to creating anticipation in your relationship. You're going to have solid conversations around how you've been showing up with her. You need feedback. You need to know what you're doing well and what you're not doing well. And just note that she doesn't necessarily know. Okay? So she's not right. She's just giving you her interpretation through her model of the world. But it's just like, what am I doing well? What am I not doing so well at? And be willing to hear and listen with curiosity rather than defense. If you don't understand the natural 3-part progression of a relationship, then you're going to suffer. So it's just notice there's that enchantment, disenchantment, re-enchantment. You avoiding this does not make your sex life better if you don't clean the house of your relationship. Especially if you're in a long-term relationship, then this is even more important. This is the area for you guys. And this is also my point in which I'm going to talk about porn. Because if you are watching porn, it's problematic because it requires no skill. if you think about what you're going to need to do to create anticipation in your relationship, porn is going to literally rub that out of you. Because all you need to do when it comes to porn is click, you're in the wanting, you then go wherever you go and click the buttons, and then you're in the having. And there's no energy around that. There's no anticipation. There's no effort. And so I honestly believe there's a place for having erotica in your relationship. Personally, I think everyone should be creating their own scenes and recording them if they wish. But it's more around, it's really problematic if it's your main source. So if you're using that more than you're with your partner, that's when it's problematic. If you're occasionally using it because you want to do some self-pleasure practice, we're going to be going into self-pleasure later, but it's like, sure. But I would make the recommendation to move it out of your life if you can. Porn is also not how great sex happens. I remember having to tell my son Balin that they're all paid actors. Couldn't believe it. You know, it's like they are literally actors. They're getting paid to do that. And they're getting paid to make it look a certain way and for her to sound a certain way and the angles and everything like that. You watch it nearly every time. If I've seen a porno, it's like the guy's just absolutely smashing her to bits, and then she jumps on and she starts to like grind him. And he's like, no, not having that, and just goes back to Pound Town. And it's like, you can tell that the woman wants it different, naturally, because women do. Women get on top of us and they don't fuck like we fuck. It's different, you know? And so the same with porn, and it doesn't matter what porn. My thought around it is, if you're going to watch porn, go and put on the worst possible porn you can so you don't want to watch it. Stop watching the stuff you like and just watch something horrendous. If I click on that, if I've clicked on a porn site, I look at it, I'm just like, yikes, you know? Not into it. I'd rather use my imagination, or I'd rather just wait and do it with my partner. But this is what we're getting to. And also, if you're masturbating to porn, you're conditioning yourself to orgasm to high intensity. So you're also not probably in the practice of using sensitivity over sensation. Typically, if guys are masturbating to porn, it's high friction to orgasm. And then when we get with our partner, our cock is conditioned like that. So we might find it really hard to orgasm unless we're really going hard, or we get excited because that's what we're used to. Like we see her, it starts to happen, we could be inside of her, and I'm so used to coming straight away that I come straight away. So again, this is why it can be problematic. And also porn reduces your ability in all areas of anticipation. It skews it, especially if porn makes you even hornier. If you were to watch porn and then it also makes you go, well, I'm not getting that in my relationship, or what I saw I really want to do with my partner. And then that creates something that can be problematic as well. So if you have questions around this, write them down. Another part around relationship housekeeping is your ability to create safety with her. And I get it. It sounds really unsexy at times. And I've spoken to this, and you guys that have done work with me with the Embodied Man mentorship know how important safety is for ourselves. So for me, growing up with this constant fear around relationship that I was going to somehow hit on a woman in the wrong way, or enter her too soon, or touch her in a way that was creepy, or whatever it is, was always felt really anxious. It's the reason why when I went to have sex when I was 14 and lose my virginity, I couldn't get it up because I had so much fear in my body. Fear was like she was only saying yes because somehow I'd made her. those sorts of things running through my body. And I wasn't even aware of it. And I'll even go as far as to say this would happen when I was an adult. The first time I would be intimate with my partner is usually I wouldn't be able to get it up because there was still some residual fear in me that I would be afraid something was going to happen or it wasn't the right time. And I'll tell you another thing. The first time I had a threesome with two women, I could not get it up. And I was like, I could have died in that moment. Like I had the moment and I couldn't. And bless both of them, just was so loving that they just reassured me and just like, we just like waited and waited. And then it was fine. And then it was a great night. But holy smokes, it happens, right? So how do we create safety? We create safety 24/7 with our relationship. Effective communication. We learn how to self-reveal. We learn how to take ownership, responsibility, and we damn straight have monthly relationship meetings where both of us get to share what's working and what's not working. Like any relationship, any business, anything that's important and value, it's we sit down and we chat about it outside of the bedroom. Energetically. We're not doing it in bed before we try and have sex, trying to clean it all up so it's all good so we can. No. It's like a proper, let's go out for dinner or let's go for a coffee and walk down the beach. Let's both of us feel really regulated, where we can talk and not be interrupted by kids or by something else. We can look at each other in the eye. We can really meet each other in this moment. And especially if there's any unsaid words. And this, to be honest, if you're in a long-term relationship, this might be the thing that takes the longest. This could take a month. This could take 6 months of repairing to get your relationship back into safety. I know for me, in my 20-year relationship, I crossed my partner's boundaries so many times when I was younger. You know, there's a part of me that just really like hurts for myself knowing that I was 17 when I first got together and I was just ready to fuck, you know, like, and then going into that, there was so many times that I crossed a boundary or had sex with my partner when she wasn't really a yes. It was just appeasing me because I wanted it, those sorts of moments. And so energetically, when we start to repair these things, there's a lot to take on. And I get it can be quite painful and quite hard, but it's so worth it. It's so possible. And if you don't speak up, then don't expect the intimacy will remain either. So it's part of this is like, this is almost a non-negotiable that it has to happen because you need to keep clearing the bullshit out from underneath. Because anything that's any unspoken words, mad, sad, leads to resentment. And nothing dries up a relationship like resentment. Feeling of resentment, hatred, her appeasing you, which basically means, yeah, I'll do it, but she's not really into it. She just does it because she knows she has to. Oh, that one kills me. Because I can feel it. I'm sensitive. Can tell. So these conversations around knowing this is, if I was going to offer something tonight as a practice, it would be learning how to do nonviolent communication, which essentially is when you sit down with your partner, it could be that you bring something up. It's like, hey, I'd really like to create a regular date night, whatever it might be that you guys are wanting to do. And it's getting each other to hear each other's wants and just acknowledging the wants. Not that it needs to happen, but that you're both acknowledging each other. I hear you, I hear what you're saying. I can hear the need in that or the desire in that, and just saying it back to each other so it's right. And then making the request around it if it's a yes or a no. And then taking it from there is if it's a yes or a no, just like, what are you willing to do? Where are we at? It's like, oh, I'm not really ready for that right now. Maybe it's something that we can do like this, or we can set up just some quality time together, whatever that might be. And it gets to be a discussion and ongoing. I think it's really important that both of us in relationship have like an understanding of how it's moving forward, so we can grow together, be together, and create, epic things together. The last part here is I'll speak into, and I might have put it in another spot too, so bear with me with my notes, but I think an important part here, if we're going to go into this intimacy and sex, is knowing what her love language is. And I know that's really basic, but knowing if it's acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, touch, or gifts, and knowing is it all of them, fine. Some women just, yeah, I'm all of them. At least knowing. And there's tests that you can do, and that could be one of the meetings that you have, is you set up a meeting with her around doing the Gary Chapman's 5 love languages quiz, so you can understand each other. Because for me, growing up, not knowing this, is my love language was touch. And so me showing my love to my partner through touch, when hers was quality time, meant that I was speaking French and she was speaking English. So I would speak to her in French and she wouldn't understand me, and then she would speak back in English and it wouldn't land for me either. I'd be desperate for her touch and she just wanted to have quality time together, which is not not watching anything on the TV, none of that. Her idea of love and quality time is eye to eye, knee to knee, engaged in discussion or conversation. We're doing something of value together. So here I am feeling unappreciated and unloved because my touch needs aren't getting met. And because that was happening, I felt resentment that I wasn't getting what I wanted and I was unable to give it to her. Because when I would touch her a lot, it would be too stimulating or too much for her and she wouldn't enjoy it. So not only is there the love languages, but what I'm going to speak into tonight is a test that you can also do, which the guys from the Embodied Man Mentorship know about, which is her erotic blueprint. And this is the one that led me into this whole understanding around anticipation as a skill set. Because there's sexual, sensual, kinky, energetic, and shapeshifter. And so it's pretty self-explanatory, but sexual is more, your erotic blueprint is around visualization, penetration, sex, those sorts of things. So a lot of guys do have sexual as their erotic blueprint. Women can have it too, bless them, makes it very easy. But then there's also, like in my case, I'm largely sensual. So I have sensual, which is like touch, lighting, music, slowness, mood. It's more around mood is our erotic blueprint. Like the sun on your skin when you're down the beach with your lover feels almost erotic. Or really nice music on a rainy day, like Jeff Buckley on a rainy morning, Sunday morning. Fucking yeah, let's go. Whatever that might be that gets you sort of in that zone. Kinky doesn't have to be whips and chains. Kinky could be naughty words, naughty thoughts, speaking to her about something that's really like naughty or in public. It could be doing something in public with her. It could be whatever that thing is. It could be a scene that you set up with her that you might dress up with each other. Or it could be toys. Or it could be shibari or whatever it might be. So it's just noticing that you can play in this. And then the one that hits this nail on the head around anticipation the most is when your partner is energetic. And that to me is probably the one that's the hardest to navigate. And it's almost like what this masterclass is about, because the last 2 serious relationships I've had, my partner has been energetic. And if you don't know energetic, it's like nothing works. Everything that you've ever been told or shown or explained doesn't really work for them. These are the women that they don't self-pleasure. They grew up never really into sex. They probably question if they're gay. They aren't really into receiving a dick pic from a guy or seeing sex. Like, they might see sex and feel something, but it's not on their mind. They're not the kind of women that initiate sex. And they're definitely the kind of women where the same thing that worked yesterday doesn't necessarily work today. It's like trying to capture smoke or herd cats with these guys or these women. So it takes the most level of care and understanding around erotic blueprints to be able to work with someone that has a energetic blueprint. And their major turn on is anticipation. So this is what they actually truly desire, is excitement and the wanting. So their version of sex is, it's almost as pleasurable wanting as it is having. And if you're not energetic, the thought of that makes no sense. But to them, it means everything. And this is kind of a big reason why we're doing this masterclass, is because we can always be playing in this energy, because it takes probably the most level of skill when it comes to intimate relating with somebody. And again, what I would do right now in the end of this area is just write down, what are you going to do in this area around what we've spoken about tonight around relationship housekeeping. What are 5 things that you need to do right now to clean up your relationship, or create more safety, or do some quizzes? Just actionable things that you guys can do. And if you have questions in this area, please ask me. Not now, just write it down so you have questions for later, because you'll forget. All right. First module down, halfway through the masterclass. All right, Linz, crack on. Okay. Holding number 2. This is holding your masculine frame. Here is the key piece of masculine that I invite men to embrace, is your invitation, or inviting her into your world. You are the cup. The way I like to describe masculine is, this is a cup, you're the cup, and she is the flowy water inside of it. Okay? So your energy, your groundedness, your presence, how solid you are, is like fucking epic to her. It's like a moth to a flame. Where we can go wrong with this is if we're trying to control her or tell her what to do, it will make her more masculine, not more feminine. So when we're direct with her, we typically get a direct response back and put her in her masculine. So how can we hold this masculine container? Not taking her no as a rejection. And remember, being logical around her and sex almost always creates a turn off. It's been 3 days since we've had sex. It's been a week. We should have it now. What's happening? Those sorts of things, like details like that. Everything around controlling her in that way will lead to her feeling less feminine, less safe, less soft, less receptive to you, just so you know. So blaming, telling, explaining, rationalizing won't work with her. And I know that because I used to do that all the time. I would plead, I would be extra nice. This is the No More Mr. Nice Guy workbooklet 101. If you haven't read No More Mr. Nice Guy, write it down, read the book, thank me later. But it's basically just all the ways we cock block ourselves by creating covert contracts in our relationship. Well, I've been working really hard and I want to get laid tonight. Like, that doesn't equal you working hard doesn't mean that her legs open up. I hate to say it. I wish it did. So we can't use logic here. We've got to hold our masculine frame. So remember, we're inviting her into our loving domain. If you're inviting her into sex with you, is the experience a 5-star hotel experience, or is it the feeling of walking into a squatter's house? That one hurt. Writing that down really hurt me. Because this has nothing to do with money and it has everything to do with your energy. How do you hold your masculine frame? So if we think of the qualities, so that with masculine, there's the light and dark aspect of masculine. So the light masculine qualities is presence, structure, and attunement. And the dark masculine is penetration, containment, or dominance. I like the word containment, and certainty. So what I'm a really big advocate for men is when they're working with their partner in sex and intimacy and anticipation is really utilizing your presence and your certainty. If you are present and certain around her, that's fucking hot. Because the dark feminine has magnetism, discernment, which is the ability to judge, and hunger. And the light feminine of a woman is openness, radiance, and devotion. So if we're in our light masculine of presence, structure, and attunement, it's going to bring out the magnetism, discernment, and hunger in your woman. So if we're always stuck in our light masculine, it's going to make her in a dark feminine. She's going to be judging you harder. She's going to be hungry for things, naggy for things. She's going to be even more enticing because it's almost like there's a dynamic here playing out. Whereas if you can hold your dark masculine more around penetration, dominance, and certainty, it actually creates more of a light feminine partner, which is the openness, the radiance, and the devotion. Does that make sense? We can always ask questions and just write them down around this, and I can always give you guys some slide or some understanding of the actual written out part so you can see it better. But I'm just giving you guys a sense of this. And it's knowing how to play this dance of masculine and feminine. Because what masculine and feminine energy does in the relationship, it creates what we all know or have heard about, which is polarity. The negative and the plus, the positive charge. So we become charged as a couple together. He's really masculine, that attracts a really feminine partner. If he's really feminine, he's going to probably attract a more masculine partner. It's just how it works. You might be like, this is what can happen if you're an anxious man is you're doing your own life. Maybe you've got a business, you do training, everything's going good. You got your shit together. And then you get into a relationship and say you're more anxious and you've got unhealed stuff around your mother wounds and that sort of thing. You might fall into a position of like letting her lead the relationship. And when she first met you, she was like, fuck, he's a catch. He's hot. He's doing things. I love him. I love what he's about. I'm attracted. I'm going to chase, or I'm open to receiving him. And then when she gets us, she can fall flat. It's like, it's not doing it for me. There's not even, doesn't have to even be conflict here, but it's just knowing what's needed to create the polarity in the relationship. And that it's a collaboration when we're doing this. So it's not some trickery. It's not something that we do behind closed doors, some red pill stuff where we're like, treat her mean, keep her keen. None of that. None of that I'm about. I'm only about authentic connection with our partner. So you won't hear me do anything around that that's like shady or whatever, like trick her into fucking you. It's not what this is about. It's about being super open and honest and getting to play in it. Relationship gets to be play, gets to be fun. Same as sex and intimacy. You guys should be fucking lit up about your love life with your partner. And if you're not, great that you're here and we've taken steps to go towards having a better relationship with it. All right. By being in your masculine, being on mission, being on purpose, being fully aligned and fully alive, taking care of business, she's going to love that. Those are the qualities of like a man that's like on purpose, fully aligned. So I want to know from you guys, how are you practicing or how are you cultivating a grounded presence in your life? What is your current practice that has you feel more grounded and more aligned and more alive in yourself, regardless of her? Write it down. Give you a minute. Maybe you're not. Maybe this is you just going, fuck, okay. There's no wind in my sails. No wonder she doesn't want to fuck me. Am I being exciting in my own life? Am I lit up by my own life? And am I grounded in it? For me, this is my daily work with men, either one-on-one or in a group program like the Embodied Man Mentorship. It's always about your ability to hold presence, because that is your ability to pay attention to her and yourself. And I'm going to be honest here. Women want your attention, but it's not the way you believe they want it. It's not in the way that social media portrays it, in likes and external validating way. It's the attention that's deeply authentic. They want to be seen. They want to feel you. They want to feel you fully alive. All right. We're going to jump in and do a practice. So we're going to do before we do, just write down, what are you going to do about this area right now? What are 5 actionable steps around holding a masculine frame? What am I going to do to ground myself each day, to feel more centered, to feel more in my balls? What's my presence practice look like? Maybe you want to learn more about masculine and feminine polarity. Maybe I don't know what my values are, and I need to know what my values are so I can get in alignment and fully alive. As most of the men that worked with me know, no man is really lazy, he's just out of alignment. So I'm giving you every step of the way, just things to take action on. So it's not a thought process, you're going to have an action list by the end of this masterclass. And you can either be overwhelmed or inspired by it. But there's some hard truths in it as well. Things need to be better. And I know that you men are those men. They're going to do better. All right. We are going to drop in just to a short meditation. This is a grounding presence practice. It's a masculine meditation of awareness. And the way you're going to do it is you're going to have your eyes open actually. So you don't need to look at the screen. But what's going to happen is you're going to get yourself a spot that you want to look at. Find something interesting that doesn't move. And I'd also recommend sitting in a way that feels very strong. So it would be probably sitting up. Could even be standing if you want to play with that, but it wouldn't be lying down. It's about like taking up space. Some of the men have done this practice already, but it is solid. So, what we're going to do to start with is there's two parts to this. One's masculine, one's feminine. So the masculine meditation is we're going to find something to look at. And what I want you to do is just solely focus on whatever it is that you're looking at. And I want you to focus on it so much that nothing else is in your attention or awareness. Not your body, not your breath. It's almost like when you look at it, you're almost looking through it. Or maybe even trying to lift it with your eyes. Or make it explode. I would actually recommend the exploding one. Can you look at something so intently that you can either lift it or break it? And if your brain goes fuzzy, just blink, go again. Put all of your attention into that object as hard and as direct as you can. Okay, relax. Just relax your body. Take a blink, swallow, let your body just hang. Now what I want you to do with this object is I want you to just still have your eyes softly gaze on this object. But now what I want you to practice is just noticing the entire room. Notice how the clothes feel on your body, every strand of hair on your body. What's in the edges of the room, out the peripheral vision that you have, your heart beating, the chair feels, all the sounds. letting your body fully just be open to all of it all at once. Can you let all of it in? See if you can relax your body even more now. 10 more seconds. All right, blinking, little stretch. One more, we're going to go one more into the masculine. Find that object again. We're going to do 45 seconds. Get yourself set and ready. And again, back into the masculine, fully focused. No sound, nothing else but this object. Trying to rip it apart with your eyes will make it lift off the ground. All your attention, all your focus. And relax. Stretching out the body. You might have found that really interesting, really difficult. You could have questions around that. So if you have anything to ask by the end of the night, just write those down now around holding your presence. All right. Let's get into the real meat of the night with anticipation. So arousal. What is arousal? Physically, a sexually aroused woman feels excitement and a plateau. So the human sexual response cycle is a 4-stage response to sexual stimulation. There's the excitement phase, the plateau phase, the orgasmic phase, and then the resolution. So there's a journey to it. And this goes for us as well. So anticipation is a fuel source for arousal, the excitement phase. So we're going to look at different ways in which we can turn our partner on. And here's your opportunity to be creative, playful, and fun. So what I want you to do is write down, just for maybe, I'll give you guys 2 minutes, is write down for 2 minutes lists of ways in which you would like to turn your partner on, or you can turn your partner on, or have or want to. Write down what you know, even write down what you'd like to do regardless of the response. Right. Alrighty. So, with this in mind, we're thinking about it. We know what works, or we know what has worked in the past, and it's knowing that we've got an idea. So I'm just acknowledging that we know what can work. We know what maybe we would like to have work, or that we would like to try, but we haven't been able to successfully do that yet, whatever that might be. So I guess here is like what we would like to do in the future if we have more skill is create more of these experiences, more of the ones that would be really amazing to have, to turn around, to experience, whatever it might be. And I think just also knowing that we can't make a sexual withdrawal from our partner from an account that has no funds in it. So if we're not building up arousal in our partner, we can't expect to take a withdrawal out. There's no currency in there. You cannot make a sexual withdrawal from an account that has no funds in it. Hopeful sex is another way to throw a haymaker. So if you've built no anticipation, then your request will seem out of the blue. And I know I have done this. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but it's like I've gone to do something and it's just so, such a no. Oh God. So it's like, okay, I'm not reading the room here, or I haven't created enough arousal, or there's too much water under the bridge. So desire is a bridge. So there's a gap from her and you, and there needs to be a need or a want to close the gap. So you're trying to create anticipation for her in her world, in her being, in her excitement. And that's you wanting her to close the gap towards you. So one of the easiest ways is like the first point that I made around relationship housekeeping is stop doing things that she dislikes. And especially if something's not aligned with you. So there'll be things that you do right now that you probably know turns your partner off. And if you're being honest, you don't really need to be doing those things. You could do better. It takes a bit more effort. So rather than trying to make so much effort around anticipation, sometimes it's just by not doing the things that aren't working or that she doesn't like. Will make you a more attractive shore. This is also a way to understand polarity in relationship, is a way that this polarity charges anticipation. If you guys are too enmeshed, then the two shores join together and there's no need for a bridge. There's no polarity. If you guys become too close, sleep too much together, spend too much time together, know each other too much, there's no mystery, there's no anticipation, then there is no polarity. So here lies the balance of having and desiring. Too much of either creates a loss of desire. I know this. I remember I would go away for the weekend. I'd have an amazing, sexy weekend. And by the end of it, I'm just like, I'm spent. I don't want to have sex again, feels like. I'm so done. And it's like the same thing. The easiest one is like food. If we do have too much food, it's like, I never want to eat again. Right? So if we think about it like this, there's the wanting and the having. And wooing her is about building authentic connection and intimacy. It's really important because she is in the game with you around this anticipation. So this is not a game that you play separate to her. The art of anticipation is a game that you both enjoy. There's no sneakiness, no hidden agenda, no trickery. She'll feel it if you try this. Trust me. It's about having her on board in the playfulness, in the fun of it. You'll never get rejected when you are not needy for sex. I repeat, you'll never get rejected when you are not needy for sex. So if you can hold your masculine frame, this is the practice, is I had to learn this. So the way I cured my need for sex was I actually did 3 months of being a celibacy. No sex for 3 months. And the first month I did abstinence. So I didn't do any self-pleasure, no masturbation, nothing, no watching anything, full feminine detox, didn't look at women, didn't think about anything, nothing with my partner. I think we were allowed to hug, but even that, I just didn't really even want to do that. And it's like, I'm sure every man here has done a fast before. It's like when you first fast, the first meal that you miss feels the worst. It's the most terrifying. Like if it's going to feel like this and get worse, I'm going to die. Whereas if you have a sexual fast, it kills that part of you off that's needy for it, because you realize once you move beyond the need for sex or the horniness, what's on the other side is control, is presence. You know, you'd never want to go to the shops to buy your groceries when you're hungry. If you did that at the end of a 3-day fast and went grocery shopping, could you imagine what the fucking trolley would look like? Fucking disaster, you know? And it's the same with us with sex. So if we're in the, oh, just like I want it so much, we're not going to be present. We're going to be out of alignment. We're going to be needy around it. We're going to be doing all these things. It's going to just make a mess of our intimacy with our partners. So it's really important that you do number 1 and number 2, which is housekeeping, and holding your masculine frame and really getting good at this. And if it does mean at some point you are willing to do a bout of abstinence or a bout of celibacy in your relationship, I fucking applaud you, men, for doing it, because it's crazy good. I did 66 days no ejaculation when I did this as well. I'm a man that's never had a wet dream in my life. And so for me, it was like, I'm going to just not self-pleasure or ejaculate until I have a wet dream. And that never happened. I was practicing self-pleasure, and we're going to get to self-pleasure later. But I was practicing, and then I ended up ejaculating after 66 days. So I honestly recommend guys don't need to go much longer than 3 weeks or a month. So if you're practicing non-ejaculation, then I honestly believe the benefits are ejaculating every 2 to 3 weeks is fine. If you're under the age of 30, maybe it's once a fortnight. But I would highly recommend getting into the practice of semen retention and holding a seed, for the simple fact that if you're not trying to come, then you're way more likely to be present and have better capacity for sensitivity and better control. And some might challenge me on that they might, feel like if they're really pent up, they'll come fast. It's a practice, absolutely a practice. So some of the key ingredients to cultivating anticipation is non-neediness, delayed gratification, patience, a growth mindset, empathy, emotional intelligence, skilled touch, and storytelling. But the big one that I'm going to say for the 2 major ones is presence and certainty. Remember, you guys get the recording of this, so you're not missing anything. Is if you guys just remember presence and certainty, if you want to create anticipation with your beloved, these are the gold aspects. And so how do we create anticipation in our lover? Is by showing up with certainty in your life and in your relationship. Really intentionally courting your woman like it's the first month of your relationship. because we all know what that was like. If we're going to be truly honest, are we treating her with the level of care that we had when we first dated her? Because it's not that much harder. It's not that much harder. That was something that I learned years ago about being in a 20-year relationship. My 20-year relationship was at its peak at the end because I realized and I gave up the story that relationships need to teeter off or cool off. I was like, fuck that. I remember seeing a therapist at one point in my life and he goes, when did you stop girlfriending your wife? And it made so much sense. And now I get to teach this every day to men with embodied union with Charlotte. It's like living, breathing embodiment of creating deliciousness in your relationship daily and teaching other men and couples how to have this skill. So the key to anticipation again is your attention, your certainty and your presence. We're going to do a practice, but we're not going to do it yet. I feel like I want to yabber on a little bit longer. So I'm going to jump off this just yet. I'm going to put it here. So I'll put it later in the night. Okay. So foreplay is happening 24/7. It's in the way that you look at her. It's how you handle her, how you touch her lower back, or joke with her that's playful. What seems random for her is nothing but authentic intentionality from you. Women love a man that has a preference, makes decisions, makes plans, and I mean good, thoughtful plans, and doesn't get easily knocked off course so he can hold his masculine frame. When you hold your frame, you can hold her anticipation. And again, you got to be thinking about how do I create non-sexual anticipation with words, with touch, with acts of service, with gifts, with quality time, the love languages. You can do that with her. Once you know what her erotic blueprint is, you can easily set up non-sexual anticipation practices. This is how you get to have 3-hour sex dates with your partner. When I start giving these sorts of dates to my clients in embodied union, they're like, how the fuck do we do that? And then once they start to learn the skills, it's like, that's easy to do because it's an adventure, it's play. It doesn't have to look a certain way. So you might want to make plans and reveal some things to her. So you might just tell her that you want to get her to clear a schedule on Friday. We have plans. Get her thinking. It's like, oh, what's happening? Get to be playful around this. She might have 1,000 questions about what's happening, where are we going, what are we doing? She'll start to question that because she's uncertain. And can you hold your frame of like, I've got this? Pack your bags and pack for this kind of weather. You know, maybe it's you're taking her camping, or maybe you're going to take her to the airport and jump on the first flight to fucking God knows where, you know, but you're just going to wing it with her. And all you need to know is that you're certain no matter what, that you've got it, that you can handle it. So she can be in the anticipation of what's happening. And you will take care of her. If you've got kids, you'll take care of the kids. You'll get whatever needs to be handled, so she doesn't have to think about it. This way she can relax into her feminine. So it's not necessarily about grand gestures and spending $1,000 a weekend on her, but it's about giving her the experience of you organizing something without being asked. Because that just speaks to you actually having some foresight, you know? For me, I did one the other week. Some of you guys might have seen it on my stories. I'm in Bali. I wanted to do an Easter egg hunt for Charlotte, and there's no fucking Easter eggs in Bali. You can't even buy little chocolate eggs. So I bought a packet of chocolates, and just in my mind, I'm like, it's too hot in Bali. If I leave chocolates out, they're going to all melt. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to put little notes in there and we're going to play a little game. So each of the chocolates that she finds has a little 15-minute game that we're going to play. And I woke up in the morning and I spread them all out. They were frozen, thank fuck. And I let the and we have an agreement. One of our agreements is that she brings me coffee naked in the morning into my bedroom. So we sleep in different bedrooms, and she comes in with coffee and she crawls up the bed to me every morning, right? And the first chocolate was on top of my coffee decanter because I have cold coffee, and it was the first chocolate with the first note in it. And she woke me up with like a squeal about it because she was so happy, right? And this is the part. This is, although the notes could be sexual, a lot of them weren't. A lot of them were just non-sexual anticipation exercises that I teach men. And she was able to open it up. And I knew what the first one was. It wasn't anything hectic. It was more just come in and I'll read you some poems for 15 minutes because I knew she was coming into the bedroom anyway. And so this is the journey. This is the suspense. She knows that there's more chocolates out there and there's going to be more guessing and more questions and more anticipation as the day goes on. And the same for you guys. It's like, what are we doing here that can create something fun? Not that you have to replicate the game that I played, but it's more around, what does your partner love that you know that she would love? Is it a one-day workshop out in nature together, building something together or doing something together? Is it some arts and crafts night? Like, does she want to do dancing and she hasn't booked it in? Or does she want to learn how to surf or whatever it might be? She might be really into a certain band and you buy her tickets and you get her a night out with the band, like, you know, going out to see the band or the show or whatever it is. And it's just having the foresight, you know? Because I think what we also do here is we do make effort and we do lovely things with our partner, but we do it in a way that doesn't actually build any excitement. It's like it's all so figured out that we forget to make it fun. It's like you can go away for a weekend together and both of you could be domesticated and sort it all out and make sure everything's sorted out. And that's fine, but there's no polarity in that. Where's the mystery? You know? So you could still spend the exact same amount of time, energy, and resources, but you could do it in a way that creates way more excitement and anticipation. And the beauty is, when your partner and the feminine is in that excitement and playfulness, it excites and brings out our playfulness as well. Do you get what I mean? So there's a huge amount of reciprocity in this playing in anticipation together. Like a really easy one is like taking a picnic. It could just be that she gets home from work and you've got something sorted out and you just take her somewhere. And you don't ask her what she wants because you've already bought it all. You've bought her all her favorite little snacks and what drinks she likes and that sort of thing. And if she's like, oh, I'm eating well and I'm meant to be doing this or I've got something else on, it's not to react about it. It's like, we're going, you know, or we're not. Like, whatever that is that holds your masculine frame, that you're not then falling into what she wants about picking about it. It's just you're doing it, you're creating it, you're leading it. I think that's also just really important that we don't fall back into the old habits of falling back into her nitpicking and we fall back into our light masculine and she falls into her dark feminine. How can we have her be receptive to us and our leadership? And if she's not open to our leadership, we're not holding our masculine frame, or we haven't cleaned up enough in the relationship to do so. There's too much water under the bridge. I'll also add here, and I don't know why I've put it here, but I think it is important, is women are typically cooler than us. So it's essential that a woman feels warm and relaxed for her to be open to anything. So if you're in bed with her and it's winter, it's like, how can you scooch the covers around her or add her extra pillow or make it warm for her? Because I know I'm really warm and every single partner I've ever had is a lot cooler than me. So basically, I'm on the point of fucking dying of heat, and my partner is comfortable, you know. And I think this is pretty average for all of us, man. Shit, it's 1:45. Let's go. So another note here is, so there's the energy is always, I've got this. I'm confident, certain, and courageous. When it comes to anticipation, confident, certain, courageous, the 3 C's. So I've got things here that I can send you guys around planning surprise dates, leaving love notes, flirty text messages, keeping some aspects of your plans mysterious to get her attention. Maybe it's doing hobbies together, celebrating special occasions in a unique way or a different way, or even just some basic thing like creating playlists together of music that you fell in love with together. Charlotte and I have a playlist of when we first got together, you know, that we're constantly adding music to. So it's nostalgic about times, like songs together when we're on trips away or whatever it might be, or the song that we made love to for the first time. It's things like that that matter. So I'd like you to write down 5 ways that you could be non-sexual or create non-sexual anticipation with your partner, if you haven't already. Okay. So foreplay, anything that's going from non-sexual to something as sexual, this is a really blurred line. So foreplay in my model of the world is happening all the time. If I'm mindful that sex is happening all the time and foreplay is happening all the time, then I make sure that I'm not distracted. Like I don't have my phone picked up when I'm around my partner, and I'm not distracted around her when I'm in presence with her is what I try and do. Also, she's taking you in. You got to remember this. So us men, when we did that practice on masculine focus and then feminine holding, so there's presence and openness, like focus and openness. She's having the experience of being open to you. So she's noticing everything. She's noticing your ability to maintain focus, and she's also noticing everything about herself and everything else around her. So it's important for you that you know this, that you have the ability to breathe and relax and slow down in your body. Because that's, if you're centered, grounded, and relaxed, then she can do the same. And it creates that for her. If you're usually in desire in her and using intensity, you're going to have to give her the experience of what I call range. So range is the skill set that you're using. Range is the ability to be able to spin her around, pick her up, slap her on the ass, caress her neck, talk dirty, and make her forget her name whenever you desire. That's range. You might be out in public and you give her a look like you're going to tear her in half, and then you kiss her on the forehead. So it's like noticing the range that you get to play in. Certainty and presence when you're doing this. Am I certain and present of what I'm doing? Because she can feel it. So if you're doing everything at the same pace, the same pressure, the same routine, that kills her anticipation when it comes to foreplay. It'll feel nice, but it won't get her wet. If you're going to write something down, anticipation creates precipitation. All right? Remember, just because something worked last time doesn't mean that you can do it every time or should. I fell into this trap. It would work, so I would try and do it every time. That's not having range. That's creating too much having, which will create less desire. So if you know you can make her squirt, don't do it every time. If you know that she likes to come a certain way, tease her with it. Don't just give it to her. Make her work for it. Same for us. We want to play in this excitement in the journey. We don't want to just get helicoptered to the top. You know, a lot of the times with women and myself, I have to slow them down, you know, or take my partner to kissing school because it's like they don't know how to kiss well. So it's like kissing's important. Does your partner kiss the way you like? Or is it the same all the time? Can you make it different? You know, it's like this is where we get to have range and get to play. And sometimes foreplay has intensity, and sometimes it'll feel like a no for her. And this is the thing that you really got to learn. Never take her no as a no for connection. She's not at sex yet. So it's not a no for sex, it's just a no in this moment. So if we're just going up the trail path and we don't have any other options and we get to a no, we can just be like, oh, fuck, we've got to turn back. Instead, if we're non-needy and can hold the masculine frame, we can just be in the like, cool, what else could we do? What else are we going to play with instead? It's never a rejection. Your partner loves you and doesn't want to reject you. She's just not a no for whatever you're trying right now. And that could change in 5 minutes. If she says no and you're like, sweet, no problem, that could make her be a yes. That's how women work. It makes no sense to us because it's not logical. They're illogical. If you try to undress her, usually, then keep her clothes on. Like basic stuff like this. If you're kissing her and you slide one of her straps off her shoulder, look her in the eye and put it back on. One of the most sexiest acts for women that are energetic is putting their clothes back on, not trying to take them off. You got to remember, most things is too fast, too soon, too much for a lot of women. So how can we be playful with this? You know? You might growl at her and act like you're about to rip her panties off and then stop and kiss her hard instead. Like have her question what's going to happen next with the sense of safety in mind. So she feels safe, she's open to you because you've cleaned up around the relationship stuff. And when you are playing in this, you get to be in the range. So this is where you get to be courageous and artful and artistic around your lovemaking and around your interactions. So you can trace her body with touch her through clothes, through a bed sheet. All these things create anticipation. Remember, we don't want to be too direct. When we're working with women, it's usually we're working from the outside to the center. So we start at the hands, we start at the arms and work our way towards her body. We wouldn't want to just go straight for in between her legs. They're not built like that. They're experiencing all of it. I got so much to go through, guys. I'm so sorry that we're going to be probably going over, but we will have a recording and I'm definitely here for the Q&A, so I do apologize. I was going to tell you about my first experience with an energetic woman, but I'm going to skip that. So it will make, what can I say here? Again, certainty, authenticity. It's going to be really, really important here. I was going to do a short anticipation through touch practice, but I'm not going to be able to do that tonight to get through the content. So we're going to finish off with an intimacy. And then we're going to go into actual sex and aftercare. So sorry to give you guys so much anticipation, but we're going to get through it. All right. Pass that. If you have questions around anticipation as like the actual skill set, I'm so happy to answer any questions. So if you've got stuff, leave it for the end. We're going to go into stage 4 now, which is intimacy. So the actual having. So this is the juicy part of the night. If you've taken the correct steps, then this is the easeful part that would almost seem like magic if you've done well so far. if you've cleaned up in the relationship, if you're holding your masculine frame and you've built anticipation up with your partner, the having becomes so effortless it seems like magic. And then what you'll then experience is sex is when you want it. My experience in relationship is I get to choose when we have sex. And because I'm not needy about it and I'm not frivolous about it, I make sure that it's worthy of having. I don't have sex to create repair. I don't have sex when I'm needy. I learned that years ago. I never engage with my partner when I'm horny because I'm not able to hold my presence. I leave it. I go to her when I'm centered and grounded and present. And then that creates the magic when I'm not in my neediness for it. The key here is that having is a withdrawal from wanting. So if you want to make a withdrawal, you want to make it from the interest that you've created. And again, too much having will create not the wanting. So we've got to make sure that we cannot make a sexual withdrawal from her account that has no funds in it. So sex as well is not linear when it comes to women. So this is what I've learned when I had the experience dating two women at once in a triad, was I was able to see and witness how women do sex differently when a man is not present. Because what I know to be true is, for men, I don't know if it's that porn's taught us this, but it's kind of like it goes from kissing to clothes come off, to breasts, to going down on each other, to penetration, to orgasm, to over. Some version of that. And what I learned with witnessing this interaction with women is that it's so not linear. Who's leading and who's following changes. There's not an agenda. There's not a trying to. There's being in the moment, being with each other. So I think that's really important as well. And I also learned as well, when it comes to anticipation or having a partner that's energetic, is my cock is my draw four card. So if you think about it's like it's the heavy hitter. So I don't just use that on my first go. I'm thinking about what can I do to create anticipation instead. If I just take a step too far and take a haymaker in my lovemaking, I can kill her anticipation. I think we've all done that before, where we're kind of like in the moment and then something happens and I was like, oh, fuck, I think I took that a bit too far too soon. She wasn't quite ready for that, or I feel a bit of disconnect now, whatever that is. So we've misread the situation. So when we're in this interaction, it's how are we paying full attention to ourselves and her. So when we're in this deep attention and focus on her body's response to yours, so you're taking care of how she is feeling through your body and your awareness. This is the thing. We're only ever experiencing our partner through our body. This is why I'm so big on somatic work that I work with men on, is your ability to be sensitive is your ability to be present with her. So if I'm only in my body focused on not coming or just how it feels for me, I am not with her. I'm basically using her body to masturbate with. So how can I be in the experience with her? How can I feel her through my cock or through my hands or through my mouth? What's it like being her? Am I watching her body move? Am I noticing her breathing? Am I syncing my breath with hers? Because she can feel if we're not being present with her. she'll feel separate or not quite close. It's like the sex is okay, but it's not like soul exploding. This is what I mean about women are underfucked. Like they're fucked physically, but what about like emotionally, spiritually, all the other realms of connection that can be there? And I can go into like all the different types of touch and all the different types of like hard, soft, spanking, the way you can use your hands, all that. I would love to do that, but it's really around presence, attention, and certainty for you guys when it comes to lovemaking. Just this alone will change the way that you make love to your partner, because when you do this, you're way more present with her. You'll have a greater time, and so will she. And I know I speak about it. I'm going to speak about it later, and we're right on time here. It's around, knowing that there's so many versions of orgasm for women that we're not just leaving ourselves only doing a few. So clit, vagina, squirt, G-spot, cervix, anal, nipple, tongue, ear, and body. It's 10 different orgasms a woman can have, right? So it's like we're not going to limit ourselves to just one or two. There's all the different varieties and versions. And to know as well, which is something I never understood because I'm a guy and I experience it differently, is women have a peak orgasm and they can have a valley orgasm. Men have a peak orgasm. Women can have a peak orgasm as well, like a clit orgasm, because their clit is much like our penis. But they can also have a valley experience of like deep waves that last for minutes and minutes and minutes. So it's a very different thing. We don't always have to be thinking about getting our woman to a peak like we do. Our woman can be quite happy in the valley, putting her, what I call with Charlotte, putting her in the well. It's like way different. So it's just knowing that there's these as well. And to me, this is this sensitivity over sensation. So we're working on creating sensitivity in our body and sensitivity in her body around anticipation, excitement, desire, and then playing with the having. So I'm going to go into this as well as far as sex is concerned. This is also a time to talk about soft penetration. So soft penetration as a practice is, I learned this through a lady named Diana Richardson, who has tantric orgasm for women and tantric sex for men. Really good resource, amazing teacher. She learned through, I think it was Osho, but there's a few other, like she's got incredible lineage when it comes to Tantra. And for me, it was a real game changer when it came to understanding how to do sex differently. And so the practice of soft penetration it's more like an energetic practice because it doesn't work on friction. If we understand our masculine and feminine essence, and men have a positive pole, which is our cock, and our negative pole, which is our heart, and women have a positive pole, which is their breasts, and their negative pole, which is their pussy. And so when men and women come together, the negative and positive pole come together, and the negative and masculine positive pole come together. And so this creates a circuit of energy. And much like the microcosmic orbit that we're doing, you can also do this with your partner. Say if you're sitting in a yam-yam position where your partner sits on your lap, you could do a non-sexual version of this, but you can also do a sexual version of this where you could be inside your partner, heart to heart, genitals to genitals, and you could be either hard or soft, but there's not the moving, but it's the breathing practice. So you're breathing in into your heart and exhaling out through your cock. And it's going into her as she breathes in through her negative pole, which is her pussy, and she's breathing out through her breasts. And this can create a charge as well. It's a fucking great practice to have with your partner, because it's not about climax. It's not about orgasm. It's about connection. It's about holding your presence, being the container for her to melt into on you. And it's knowing that if you can create more sensitivity in her and in yourself, then you can have greater experience of ecstasy with your partner, because friction creates numbness eventually. So it's like learning this with our own cocks, that it doesn't have to be hard. Like once we start to penetrate our partner, we don't have to keep going. It's okay to stop, or it's okay to go soft again, or change positions, or do whatever it is. Like you can stop halfway through and have a laugh and eat some snacks and then come back to it. Women are like irons and men are like toasters. We can just turn on and turn off. Whereas a woman, when you've got her really activated, she's like a sexual tyrannosaurus. She's not going to cool off. She might think she will. She'll be like, oh, it won't work anymore if you stop. Trust me. Certainty and presence. It's like, babe, no problem. You know, have this snack. We'll go back later, you know? And then that creates the wanting. Because if the having then starts to become, it doesn't stop having until he comes, then the wanting can go down as far as expectation. So again, we're constantly creating this anticipation, even in the having. There's like not the neediness to come, there's just the experience to be having. So again, if we watch porn or we see, like movies just terrify me, because when I see sex scenes in movies, if you change the music, it would look like a rape scene a lot of the time. Like it's not good. There's no foreplay. There's nothing usually. It's straight to penetration. And I get it. It's like maybe they're limited in time for the scene and they're just doing it. But to me, I think they could do a much better job, you know, for all parties involved. Because, you know, this is where a lot of people are getting their education from, because they're too worried or protective of their ego to go anywhere with this kind of work. And I know you men are not those men, but it's like knowing that this is possible. So again, if you're following your woman's pleasure and you're super in the moment and present with her, you'll even notice when she's starting to go numb. So this is your opportunity to start to practice noticing her body. I can tell when my partner is starting to go numb before she even does. I can tell. So it's for me, it's just like I'm just aware of this stuff now that I've been aware of for a while. It's all in the practice. So this is where we could stop, slow down, focus on something else, create more touch. You could stay inside your partner, but it doesn't matter if you're hard or not. You're just there with her connected. You could just literally go back to just breathing together, because her magnet is on already. And if I'm going to finish the sex part, I'm going to have to also say that I want men to be in the practice of self-pleasure. It's really important that you're in the practice of self-pleasure. Be the type of man that takes himself on a journey. When was the last time that you self-pleasured without your cock? I know the men that have worked with me have heard this 100 times, but it's like, when was the last time you just touched your body to notice how sensitive you are? Or just ran yourself a bath? Or explored your body in a way that you've never explored it before? You know, or did something different, you know, or self-pleasured without porn if you've always used it, or, you know, used your imagination or did something different, where it's like you're in the practice of building your own pleasure rather than just self-pleasuring to orgasm. It's like, take yourself on a date, take yourself on a journey, romance yourself. because I know that I want my partner to be doing that as well for herself. Because when you get in so much control of your own pleasure, your partner is the one that probably starts to initiate, because I don't have to unless I feel like it. Because I'm self-sourcing, I'm in my own energy. And then I have sex to enjoy it. I don't need it. Because I want you to know that in your bones, you're like a fully fledged sexual god. Like you've got this, but it's in the practice. So I just want you guys to take a moment. What are the 5 takeaways that you're taking from this section around sex? I'm going to duck off 1 second. I've got to. All right. So the last slide, and one of the most underrated and misunderstood parts of anticipation around sex and your partner is aftercare. So aftercare typically looks like switching off the video that you watched, or with your partner it's finishing and going off and cleaning up. But this is the cool down after sex, when you're developing a non-penetrative, or when you're developing a non-penetrative skill with her. So like aftercare is this part after the peak, after what's happened in the scene that you've created or the practice that you've had, is how are you putting her back together? If your woman's fully in her feminine and fully like discombobulated, you've made her forget her own name and she's a puddle on the floor, and she's experiencing everything all at once, she may need some putting back together, right? How do we bring her back with attention, with care, with slowness? Like knowing a woman after she's orgasmed, how sensitive her entire being is. Colors are brighter, her body is more sensitive. Like, how could you savor that? How could you be in that? That's just like, she's so open in that moment. She's fully there. She's fully had this beautiful experience with you. How can you hold her, slow her, and take her in? Maybe it's you want to talk, like you could be talking to her around the experience of just how amazing it was, what you loved about it. I know my partner's always like, well, how's that like for you? Or whatever it might be. And it's like, it's an opportunity to be playful and cherish her, because how you leave it is how she remembers it. The next time you go to engage her with sex, she might think in the back of her mind what it was like last time. Was it a positive experience? Did you care for her after in a way that made her feel like, I can't wait for the next time? Because closing the scene is as important as warming her up to the scene, to the engagement, whatever it is that you're playing with. And it could be something so simple like a snack platter, or it could be a towel or something for her to have next. Or you might pick her up and take her into the shower and wash her body down, wash her hair, or whatever it might be. I remember the first time I gave my partner a massage, I picked her up and I literally washed her. No one had ever washed her in her life, put her back into bed, and we didn't do anything sexual. She was fully naked, fully could have, but I didn't. And I think this is the other part too that we're going to be leaving it on, that I kind of maybe jumped over, is that in this game of anticipation that we're playing, we don't always have to go to the having. Sometimes it's nice just to create the anticipation and then leave it there. Like that's a skill of itself. It's like, I don't have to. That's the game that I like to play with my partner is, can I turn her on and have it be in the wanting without having to have the having myself? It's a game that I like to play to get her worked up so much that she initiates on me. Like that's the win. So that's everything from me tonight. I do appreciate you guys. I was going to just say that before we jump into the masterclass, like the Q&A, I was just going to add in here that my embodied man mentorship starts on Thursday. So if you liked this masterclass or you got a lot of information or a lot of good stuff out of it, and you're wanting to go deeper into this kind of work or this kind of exploration with yourself, I would highly recommend it that we're kicking off on Thursday. It's an 8-week program. And I wanted to give you guys on the call and on the masterclass an opportunity to buy from me for that masterclass, for the program, and give you guys a discount. So it's an opportunity that you have the next couple of days to take note of the discount that you guys get. It's usually $1,200. It'll be for $1,000, the 8-week program, if you're interested. And also, if you're a couple and you're wanting to really dive deep into all of this work with your partner, then Charlotte and I run a program called Embodied Union, and it's a 3-month container for couples. And it's epic. There's so much in that program. I would highly, highly recommend it. If you're a couple or if you're a man in relationship and you're wanting to take your relationship from here to here, fucking fantastic. So can't recommend it enough. So I'm just going to leave that in the chat, the link to buy if you guys want to do that for the Embodied Man Mentorship, the 8-week program. Otherwise, let's jump in. All right, Jimmy, that's awesome. And for everyone else, I would just love, let's open up the Q&A. I'm going to keep the recording on, and I really appreciate you guys. And I'm so sorry I went over time. I was thinking I would have about 20 minutes to half an hour for Q&A, and I blew that. So I'll shut up. Questions? Just remember you're all on mute.
Thanks, Linz. That was amazing, mate.
Bit different from the last seminar.
And it's very cool to have known you now for over a decade and see you progress and transition, and then how wise you are on all of this is just so incredible.
Lots of mistakes.
Funny, like I'll read one of my questions out. Best practice post sex. You hit the nail on the head with all of that at the end. Also answered this, where to start when it comes to connecting through or via great sex. A lot of these got answered. I'm just trying to find one that one here, sort of like how to balance expectations, I suppose, and maybe the answer is, I have the answer myself. Is it just the regular communication and the chats and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely the regular. Like, to me, Charlotte and I have a policy is that we just clean as we go with our relationship housekeeping. But what I think works really well is if you actually set it up as a monthly thing. And why I think it's important that you actually set it up and set it up well is that it's not you're bringing something up because something is wrong. So it doesn't create the defensiveness in either party. It's just we love each other and we're working on this and we're honest that we both want to bring stuff, whether it's good or bad. So it just happens, And then that way it's just, there's not this like, oh, he wants to have a chat. Because all of us have probably had that experience of our partner go, we need to talk. And it's just like, oh no, can't do it. So regular setup and make it good. Like go somewhere nice, make it something great to do together where you're both like, this is what I want.
Thanks, bro. And last one, could you just share the blueprints again? You say like mood blueprint, kinky, and energetic. Was there a fourth?
There's sexual, sensual, kink, energetic, and shapeshifter.
Ooh.
Yeah, and the shapeshifter's a mixture of all of them. So you can play in that. And I think the same with to be honest, same with the love languages. You can be a bit of all of them. You're not just
Yeah.
one, but it's really knowing your partner's erotic blueprint and your own. If you do that, you're gonna be nailing what usually you'll miss. It'll really transform it. Anyone else?
I wrote down, you said earlier around how it kills, I guess, like the anticipation is like when you like you know too much about each other, or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
It's like, how do you like you create the mystery when, like, when you're, let's say, a couple that like shares a lot of stuff together, and you're open book to each other, like um
I hear. I think I know what you mean, Adam. As far as like there's not the shore. You're actually like starting to merge together too much, and that's the risk
yeah.
that you've got to take, right? Where you guys can fall into each other. Most couples, if
Mm,
they're both a little bit anxious leaning, can kill the polarity by being too enmeshed. So that's
mm,
why maybe like separate, like Charlotte and I are more anxious leaning. So what do? We work together, we live together, we everything together. So we sleep separate. We spend a lot of our day apart when we're not frivolous with it. So it creates more intentionality. So I purposely have time apart. I create that for a reason. I would love to hang out with her all the time, but I know it would be detrimental in the long run. And it's like talking about everything. It's like that's why I've got men's group. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the just the blah all the time with her, because then it just takes all the mystery out,
mm.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like it's just building up the intentionality and skill of being a shore to each other so they can be a bridge. Bridge this long is no good.
No,
Yeah.
no, I just felt that one. It's like when it comes to like the how like me and Sam seem to like just be really open and vulnerable with each other. We just talk about fucking a lot of stuff, and like have deep conversations a lot. It's like it just seems like the mystery is like when we first started dating and going out and seeing each other, like she spoke to me like a lot about how I'm just so mysterious and like doesn't really know a lot about me, and I'm like kind of,
Yeah.
just she wants to know more about me. So then I opened up and started talking a lot more about myself, and that's the now it's like there's not a lot of mystery, and she's like learning a lot of my shadowy sides and my good, like that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
So
So the mystery.
what I would recommend in that, Adam, then is you have to be way more intentional about setting it up. So the scene that you might set up, or the date that you might set up, or whatever it is, it's like you know each other. That's on this level, but intimately, it could be a different thing. You could
Mm.
create a scene where it's like you could jump through the window, man. You know what I mean? Or like whatever it is that it's like create the desire, create the mystery again. You know, go out somewhere and meet up and act like you don't know each other. Like
We can play out a porn scene. I'll knock on the door and be a plumber, and just I'll come to fix some pipes.
whatever it is, man. Whatever it is. Love that.
Yeah.
Anyone
Yeah.
else?
Okay.
I guess
Um,
what's milling around in my head is, you spoke about women maybe having that desire for sex twice a month as opposed to us, many, many times per day. I feel like that almost gets used against me. And it's don't know what I'm trying to ask here. I
Sounds
think
like you're
there's been
getting
a
made wrong for your desire.
I think it's just like say for example, if I'm too fast um to move forward with the foreplay, I feel like there's times where she's very quick to go straight for my cock, and then I'll pull her up on that and be like, hang on, and I'll kind of have a bit of a joke about, what about my breasts? What about my neck? What about I'm trying to
Yeah.
point out all these things that she pulls me up on. But I just don't know if I'm communicating it in a way that is really getting through of how it makes me feel to have that desire and be knocked back. But then when she's got that desire and for some reason we can't follow through with it, it just doesn't feel fair. Doesn't feel
Oh, I hear you on that one.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what I'm trying to communicate here, but I think it's that whole thing of like that, like I know that she's desiring it, and one of the questions I sort of did write down was, I know that something prior to this was about, hormones and the time of the month and that sort of thing, and you spoke a little bit about that. My partner has gone back onto the pill to try and ease some of those hormonal irregularities, but
Yeah,
then that's affected her libido. So,
absolutely.
I'm kind of trying to deal with that now, and that shift from, you know, um, being highly dysregulated at different times of the month, and her libido going up and down like a roller coaster, to being quite kind of streamlined now. So yeah, I mean
I
that's
think
kind of
I think if there's a question in there, I think what I heard before was just around wanting to be met in like the same way, like the fairness thing. I think I've definitely experienced stuff around fairness with intimacy, and I think it's just like, yeah, I don't enjoy my partner just. I've warmed her up so much that she just grabs my cock. Like that's a no for me.
yeah,
Like we don't do that here. So it's like I want to be, I want to feel anticipation too. So I think it's important to like be in the practice of doing that with each other. Maybe sometimes it's just receiving that from her. Like she might just want to organize, like in my relationships, like a lingam massage or a yoni massage or whatever it might be. That's just like very much devotional practices to each other,
yeah,
because sometimes when we're not in the mood, but our partner is it something that we can provide or give to them and experience because they are in the wanting and I want to have them have a good time, and vice versa, So I think it's like, can we be in the practice of just practicing these things? Like, could it be a practice of doing something together that's maybe doesn't lead to sex, but it's this playfulness of maybe for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, they try something, and then for 15, 10 minutes, they do something to us. Like there's that
yeah,
what we call a 3 minute game, but it can be a lot longer. So you could do
mm,
something for your pleasure to her. Thanks, Jimmy. You could do something for her pleasure, or you could do something for your pleasure to her and play
mhm,
that game out where it's like there's more practices in this, you
sure,
know? And I think there was the other thing around like the pill. Like I'm not a big proponent of anyone being on any pharmaceuticals if they can help it, especially around their hormones. And I so get that. But I guess that flatness that you're talking to is like maybe that makes it a bit harder. But I guess in the same way, it's how do you not take that personally? Because she's also going to be dealing with it as well. That's the other thing
yeah,
that's really hard. It's like, like we're thinking about ourselves, making sure that we're hard and we're ready to go when they are. The pressure that women put on themselves when they go to have sex about being wet enough, being turned on enough, the kids are sorted, this is sorted, that's sorted. It's like, I don't know how they ever have sex the way that they think about it, you know? It's like noticing that practice of like focus and then relaxation. It's so easy to just focus. And it's actually quite hard to stay open to everything without trailing off into one thing. So
Yeah.
that gives you something there, Jared.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's that whole thing of, like, for me, I certainly connect through sex, but to get to the sex, there needs to be that emotional connection first. So
yeah,
what you covered tonight with the anticipation and really, how much foreplay is outside of the bedroom, that's hopefully going to be a game changer in a lot of ways.
I think
Yeah.
so, man. Absolutely. And yeah, you just spoke into something that I missed it. I forgot what you said, but it's around. Um, I lost it. There was something in that as well that I thought was quite like important to speak into. So I'm sorry. Oh,
That's all right. So I
it's
think
just around in. Oh, I thought it was around intimacy, but I must have missed it. I forget the point that you made. All right, Ben, do you have any more questions before you jump off? Just that because we're
Um,
recording, I think it's valid if any man has questions that they just at least get proposed so then I can answer them whether you're on the call or not.
yeah, okay, cool. So for me, I think that the things that kind of came up for me in this was about like I guess the meshing thing, just spending way too much time together. Um, I guess my questions were like, how do I break out of being so disengaged? I feel like I've been pretty disengaged with my partner lately, just like got nothing left to offer. Um, and and yeah, I think it's like, I've got all my things that I'm doing. Like I've filled my plate up, with everything that I'm trying to accomplish in my own life, that I have no space left for her.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I give her my time and my energy, but my heart's not in it.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, kind of like just maybe some advice on flipping the switch on that and changing the script into, being
Yeah,
still about me, but having energy for her as well.
yeah, and I think that's the balance for all of us. It's like we've got busy lives and we're all trying to do great things in our own life, and it would definitely be in the effective communication. To me, it's the relationship, the first module that we did tonight around cleaning it up, like letting her know that it's just like I'm trying so hard, I've got all this stuff, and I just really would like to create some intentionality around our time together, and having those sorts of conversations because it's vulnerable to do that, you know, and it's like that's the truth though. It's like how can we be actually authentic with each other, and that authenticness creates the connection as well, you know. So it's getting that balance right of like effective communication and letting her into your world because it can also feel like when we've got a lot on, it can feel like a burden, and I so get that as well. We don't want our relationship to feel like a burden, you know, because we're already drowning in it. So it's like to me, it's like, can we increase our capacity? Am I doing the things that really fill my cup so I have a container? Or is there things that need to just like that aren't that important that I'm doing that I could actually make my relationship a bit better? But typically what I find is we've got the time, we just don't know what to do with it. That's been my biggest thing is like I actually have plenty of time to do stuff with my partner. I'm just not being like not really using that time to the fullest advantage. So because I'm failing around a bit, it's like I don't actually know what to do with it. So, maybe embodied union's the thing for you in the future, man, because it's just like it'll just give you like really structured direction in the beginning to just really like clear out the water under the bridge, but also give you guys both a way to connect with each other that feels really young, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think I have some communication wounds that I really need to work on and work through.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
for
Let's do
sure.
that, man. Men's work.
Yeah.
40-man mentorship, you're in both of those. So let's go with that. Let's work on that in the
That's
next
it.
couple of weeks.
All
Let you
right,
go, brother.
cool. I'm gonna bounce. I gotta sleep.
Good
Thanks,
night.
brothers. I'll see you tomorrow night too.
See ya. So, Rob, do you have anything in particular, man, while you're on the call?
No, man, yeah, it was got a lot of info out of that, man, and you know, awesome work. And yeah, just my wife's an energetic being, so I was kind of looking forward to hearing your stories with that. But
Another
yeah,
time, perhaps.
yeah, man, yeah. But it's yeah, he gave me some homework, and I always get something out of these videos. So yeah, thanks. And yeah, it's just I guess yeah, for what I got a bit more understanding on how to energetically please my woman
Yeah.
throughout the whole day. Like that's what I got out of this practice. Like just because we're struggling, the energy's fucking on fire all the time.
Yeah.
But like navigating that and understanding it, it's a hard one. You've never been taught it, so yeah.
Oh,
Thanks for
especially, yeah, no worries, man.
yeah.
Especially with
Got a lot of
energetics.
value out of this. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
great. And so happy to support you moving forward. Any questions, just reach out, man. So happy to help any brother that has an energetic partner. Geez, I needed it. I
Oh,
wish
I
I
would
had
join your
these.
mentorship, man, but do more of it. But it's 2 kids.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
It's
Too
just
easy,
like
man.
so much work you can do. You gotta
Yeah,
just spread it out. But thank you, brother.
thank you.
I'm off.
All right.
I'll probably shoot out too now. See you
No
guys.
worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So if there's no more questions, I'll wrap it up here. I'll hit the recording off. And for the men that have watched online on the replay, please shoot me through any of the questions. I'm happy to answer them in the next week or so. Feel free. Absolutely would love to have you into the mentorship that starts on Thursday as well. If you guys are interested, the code is there, and I'll be posting this and sending it out, the replay out to you guys tonight. I'll stay up and make sure that that goes out to all the men that have watched on the replay. So I'll just end it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being on the call. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for your patience. Good night.